Welcome to the Nathan-nephew Show. I'm Nathan-nephew, here for an extended edition of the Nathan-nephew Show. Mostly because we're just so excited that Obamacare's been fixed. I don't know if you heard, but King Obama, came out earlier today, the day I'm recording this anyway, was Thursday. He came out and he proposed his fix for everybody that's losing their health insurance based on his law. You know that lie he told for months and months and months, where he said, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. And then it turns out that that's not true at all. And then it turns out that, well, the White House, which I don't know if you knew this. Well, I know you knew this, but I don't know if the liberals knew this, but when the White House knows something, then for all intents and purposes, the president knows that very same thing. He can claim he didn't know. He can claim that. And in fact, I have a clip of him claiming, I didn't know the website was broken. If I had, I wouldn't have compared it to Travelocity. Okay. He knew that when he was telling the American people that they could keep their health care plan, that was not true. He knew that. Before we get into all of that fun, and compare and contrast his fix with the Upton bill, which is a Republican bill that may or may not pass the House tomorrow, Friday, probably today by the time you hear this, and it may have already passed by the time you hear it. But so just know that if you're listening to this on Red State Talk Radio, it may be I may not know what the hell I'm talking about. All right, I want to first, we're on Article 4. As those of you that have listened to this show before, you know, I've been going section by section through the Constitution of the United States because I think it is very important and often, it's one of those things that it's easy to not read the Constitution. We all know the Constitution is there. We know that we should follow. We know that the government should adhere to what it says in the Constitution, but how often do we take the time to actually look at the Constitution, read what it says, and try to understand it? And I'm not diving deep. I mean, you can look at the Heritage Foundation and all sorts of great places that have dug really deep into what the Constitution says, the intent of the words, and where it came from. The history, you know, you look at the Federalist Papers and other sources like that, and really dig into the root of what the Constitution says. I'm not getting into anything that deep. I'm really just passing through it so you can hear the words, kind of explaining what it means in general, and moving on. I am on Article 4, so we've already established the first, Congress, the legislative branch. Secondly, the executive branch, and then the judicial branch. And I want to point something out for our president here, and I'll get into this a bit more, but let me see if I can find it. I'm looking for Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. Now, I really, really stress this when on the show that I went through Article 1, and you can head over to nathan-nephew.com and check out all of my past shows, and you can listen to them all. In the first few minutes of every show, I go through the Constitution. So if that's all you want to listen to, you can do that. I suggest you listen to the whole thing because it's pretty darn good. No, but really, if that's what you want to do, I mean, it's not as good as Constitution on tape or anything, but, you know, if you want to hear me ramble on about it, then you can do that at nathan-nephew.com, listen to my past shows. But all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress. Shall be vested in a Congress. Not vested in the executive branch. It does not say that Congress will make laws, but the executive branch may change them at any time. It doesn't say that. In fact, it says the opposite of that. It says if you want to make a change to legislation, it has to be done in Congress. All right, so moving on. Article 4, Section 1. Full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. And the Congress may by general laws prescribe the manner in which such acts, records, and proceedings shall be proved and the effects thereof. So, first part of Article 4, Section 1 says all of the laws in one state, licensing, court decisions in one state must apply in another state. So if you have a driver's license in Michigan, you certainly can use your driver's license in Ohio. You have a marriage license in Michigan, that marriage license is valid in Ohio. Now, the second part makes it a bit more tricky. First one says, for sure, everything in one state applies in another state. Second part says, but Congress may make changes or set restrictions, set up guidelines of what sorts of records, proceedings, and how they have to be recognized in another state. So Congress can say something like, well, marriage licenses in one state are valid in another state unless it's a heterosexual marriage. In fact, we only force states to recognize gay marriages from other states. They could do something like that if Congress wanted to, and it fit in with all of the other constraints of the Constitution. That's just an extreme example. We're not there yet, but that's just to illustrate the point that Congress can describe the manner in which these laws and licenses and records and court decisions are applied in two different states. Article 4, Section 2, the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. So no citizen in one state shall be treated any differently than a citizen in another state. If you visit another state, you shouldn't be treated any differently because you're a visitor. We're all Americans. A person charged in any state with treason, felony, or other crime who shall flee from justice and be found in another state shall, on demand of the executive authority of the state from which he fled, be delivered up to be removed to the state having jurisdiction of the crime. If you commit a felony in one state and you cross state lines, you run to another state, and then the governor of the state that you committed the crime in says, hey, we want that person back. We want them back in this state because we want to charge them with that felony. That second state that you ran to is going to send you back. Or at least arrange for your pickup. I mean, I don't know if they need to have curbside delivery, but they will say, yeah, here he is, come get him. No person held to service or labor in one state under the laws thereof, escaping into another shall, in consequence of any law or regulation therein, be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up on claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. So if somebody's bound to service or labor, so an indentured servant or a slave or something like that, and you escape to another state, that other state cannot free you, essentially, and must return you to the original state. Now, let's not forget something that I should point out, especially since this is sort of a special edition. I will go through, I plan to, and if you have any suggestions, send me an email, talk@nathan-nephew.com. I plan to go through the amendments to the Constitution as well, and I'm not doing that right now. So any or all of this may have been amended. So keep that in mind when I say something. You say, that doesn't seem right. That's not how we work. Well, that might be because an amendment has actually changed that part of the Constitution. I just haven't gotten there yet. I'm literally just reading this in order. Now, again, you go to some, is it Cornell maybe? I know there's some websites where you can look at the Constitution and it makes it really easy to see what was amended, essentially making the amended text a link to the amendment that changes that text, which is really great, really great. Makes it easy to follow, and you can read the Constitution and say, oh, this changed, but this is what the wording is today. Article 4, Section 3. New states may be admitted by Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned, as well as of the Congress. So, Congress may admit new states into the Union. So if they decide Puerto Rico's a state, Congress can say, hey, Puerto Rico's a state, and Puerto Rico is now a state. But if Congress wants to say, well, I think Michigan and, Ohio should become one state, and we'll call it Ohiogan. Well, they can do that, but that can only happen if the legislature of Michigan and Ohio agree to that. They also can't say, well, I want to make the Upper Peninsula of Michigan a separate state. They can only do that if the legislature of Michigan agrees to that, because they're trying to make a state out of land that resides within an existing state. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States, and nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state. Congress basically gets to make rules and regulations for any territory that's owned by the United States, and this Constitution is not supposed to give any special treatment or prejudice to any states, any land owned by any states, or any claims of the United States. Each claim to land will be dealt with independently. Section 4. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. So this one is also very important to our current president. It says, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. It does not say, and it could say, but it does not say, a democratic form of government. The United States of America is a constitutional republic. It is not a democracy. We hear all the time people saying, this is a democracy. Democracy, democracy. We need to do what's good for democracy. And it's especially offending when we hear the President of the United States, the leader of this constitutional republic that we have, calling it a democracy and worrying about following the rules of democracy. Well, democracy is very different. What democracy is you have two pieces of pie. 5 other people have one piece of pie, and then there's one person that has 0 pieces of pie. Well, in a democracy, those 5 people that have pie and the one person that does not have pie may vote to take one of your 2 pieces of pie and give it to that person that has no pie. And since you're in the minority, the only one having 2 pieces of pie, you really have no say in it because the majority rules. And that just that causes more polarization. It causes more division. It causes more fighting. And it causes more I'm going to say theft from people who have to give to people who don't deserve. And that's why we need to be very careful to not move towards a democracy in this country, and in fact stay where it was meant to be, and in fact where the Constitution says it must be, which is a republican form of government. The Constitution guarantees that the federal government will operate as a constitutional republic. Now, with all that being said, and with those very important things pointed out on Obamacare, I want to get into what I almost called him a Democrat. He is a Republican. He's a very, very, very moderate liberal Republican, and his name's John McCain. And you might remember him. He ran for president and didn't do so well in 2008. But he said things like, well, Ted Cruz and Mike Lee are wacko birds, and trying to repeal Obamacare is a losing battle, and you're destroying the Republican Party. In fact, I have a couple clips of things he said. This was September 19th of this year. John McCain talking about why we shouldn't try, why Ted Cruz should not, and he was on CNN, why he should not stand up for defunding Obamacare and stopping the monstrosity of the health care bill.
I think Senator Cruz is free to do whatever he wants to with the rules of the Senate. I will again state unequivocally that this is not something that we can succeed in, and that's defunding Obamacare, because we don't have 67 Republican votes in the Senate, which would be required to override a presidential veto.
So why is Cruz doing it, and why are the House Republicans doing this? If it's obvious that they don't have the votes to do it, why continue?
Well, I do note with some interest that most of the people who are doing this are new and did not have the experience that we had when the American people, who don't like government but don't want it to be shut down, reacted in a very negative fashion towards Congress for doing so. And so I'm absolutely sure that there are ways that we can force votes on them.
Okay, so John McCain, Ted Cruz, and people like Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul to some extent, Marco Rubio to some very lesser extent, they were called terrorists. They were called anarchists. They were called government-hating, young, inexperienced, fresh. John McCain says right here, well, the reason that they're trying to defund Obamacare and the reason that they're actually standing on principle and actually fighting for the thing that got them elected, actually standing up and doing what they said they would do when they campaigned for their position in the Senate, is because they are inexperienced. They're brand new to the Senate. They don't know what they're doing. And somebody like me that's been here for 56 years, or however the hell long he's been there, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have the experience. They are not establishment-type Republicans. Now, I want to play a clip from John McCain on the floor of the Senate talking about what we need to do, because, he called for repeal during the 2012 campaign, but then we know how that election shaped up. Barack Obama got reelected, so John McCain basically conceded, like many other people, it's law, we lost, move on.
In the 2012 election, Obamacare, as it's called, and I'll be more polite, the ACA.
Well, first, how is that more polite? Because Barack Hussein Obama himself said he fully embraces the term Obamacare. So I'm not sure how it's more polite to not call it Obamacare when Obama himself has embraced the term. And in fact, it's in advertisements, which I may talk about. Colorado advertising in ridiculous ways, advertising the healthcare exchanges, basically selling it with either being drunk or having, one night stands, and that's okay because you have Obamacare. I'll get to that in a second, but I don't know. This is a dig at Ted Cruz, because he's responding to Ted Cruz on the floor of the Senate. And Ted Cruz calls it Obamacare because that's what it is. We need to pin it on Obama and on the Democrats and not let these things be pinned on Republicans, which really is the goal. But Obama embraced the term Obamacare.
Was a subject that was a major issue in the campaign. I campaigned all over America for 2 months, everywhere I could, and in every single campaign rally, I said, and we have to repeal and replace Obamacare.
Yeah.
Well, the people spoke. They spoke, much to my dismay, but they spoke. And they reelected the President of the United States.
Yep, so people spoke. They reelected the President of the United States, so we need to just sit down. Ted Cruz, you freshman senator that doesn't know what the hell you're doing, standing up for the very thing that you campaigned on, that people elected you to do, sit down because the president was reelected, and us Republicans just need to let them do anything they want, ram anything down our throats that they want to do, because the people spoke, and how dare you, you terrorist, how dare you stand up for what your constituents want and for what the majority of the American people want. How dare you? Now, we saw recently that some of John McCain's friends like Dianne Feinstein and some other Democrats have been kind of changing direction on this and saying, well, maybe we need to make a change. And in fact, they were supporting the Upton bill, a Republican measure that would sort of kind of fix the whole if you like your plan, you can keep your plan lie. So John McCain's starting to run along with some of these Democrats and say, well, yeah, maybe we should fix it. And in fact, he was on Greta Van Susteren on Fox News, and he advocated a total repeal, which didn't we just hear him say that it was irresponsible and that you're ruining the Republican Party and that Ted Cruz is only trying to get rid of Obamacare, a total repeal or defunding of Obamacare, because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's so inexperienced and he's so incompetent. That's the only reason he's doing it, and he's ruining the Republican Party.
Is, first of all, let them try to sort this out. But second of all...
Like how, though?
They're not going to be able to.
What's the solution? Give me the solution.
The solution is, first of all, to let people keep their insurance if they
gone.
want to.
The policies are gone.
I know that, but or at least reinstate them. Second of all, allow the insurance companies to give a menu of whatever that they want to provide. Third of all, medical savings account. Fourth of all, medical malpractice reform. Let people go across state lines to in order to, if they can get a better insurance policy in another state, and remove this whole tax incentive for employers to provide employees health insurance.
That is repeal.
That's repeal.
That's repeal.
That's right. That's exactly right. That is total repeal in every other way, because what Obamacare is an experiment in social engineering. In other words, make young, healthy people pay more, which they shouldn't have to, in order to subsidize the health care for people who are older and unhealthy. That is the ultimate in social engineering.
The ultimate in social engineering. So, okay, that's fine. So he's calling now for a total repeal. Now that he thinks that it's politically expedient. See, now here's the problem. Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, stood up against Obamacare when it wasn't the popular thing to do. They did it because they knew it was right. They did it because they knew that's exactly why they were elected into office, was to stand up against socialist garbage like the Affordable Care Act. And they did it because that was the right thing to do. John McCain is now quietly saying, yeah, total repeal. We need to repeal it, because he thinks all of his Democrat buddies and his establishment buddies are moving in that direction. He thinks that is the politically smart thing to do, and he thinks he'll come out as the winner in this. And the problem is that may actually be the case. If this does, and I don't think it will, if this does get fixed, everybody's going to say, oh boy, John McCain, you are a leader. You were right. Ted Cruz, they were way premature. They were crazy. But you, sir, you knew how to not stand until it was popular. You knew how to go with the flow and stay deeply embedded in the establishment of Washington and only stand when it would help further your career. It's sickening. It's sickening how clear-cut proof. You can play these clips back to back of him saying, oh, Ted Cruz doesn't know what he's doing because he hasn't been here before, and that's just not how things work in Washington. And then switch to, yeah, of course, everything Ted Cruz said, but I'm not going to admit that it was his idea. And this is what happens. You have a senator on the cutting edge, right? I mean, Ted Cruz, that as soon as he realizes that it's the right thing to stand up against Obamacare, he does. And then months later, you have John McCain regurgitating exactly what Ted Cruz was saying, but claiming it as his own idea of, well, of course repeal because it's a broken system. Now, notice how he's talking about things like, and this is a callback to the first segment, but buying insurance across state lines, because today you cannot buy an insurance policy in another state, which is ridiculous. And we just talked about that in the Constitution, where laws in one state, records and court proceedings and things in one state need to transfer over to another state. Well, that's not the case in healthcare today, and it should be. And that is a major factor in the problems we have, because if you allowed insurance to cross state lines, you increase competition, which, as we know, free market competition increases quality and decreases cost. That's just how it works. It's been proven over and over again to work that way. John McCain, he needs to be voted out of office. I mean, there is no other fix for this, because these are the type of people that really are holding the Republican Party back. They're the type of people that if we could replace them with Ted Cruz's or Mike Lee's or even Rand Paul's, the Republican Party could grow, because it would be much more inclusive. Because when you talk about the Republican Party being an exclusive club and not being a big tent, this is what we hear the Tea Party being a small tent Republican Party. That's the exact opposite of what's true. The Tea Party is saying we want people that are going to follow the Constitution. We want people that are going to read the Constitution, understand it, and implement a small government, take everything we have today and cut it, because it's far too big and way outside the realm of what the Constitution allows. Anybody who holds those beliefs, we want in our party. And we're not going to destroy people that disagree. We're going to try to make them agree using facts and logic. The establishment, what do you want to call them, moderate Republicans, whatever, the establishment, they're the small tent people. They're if you don't agree with us, if you don't follow along, you don't have to agree with us, and this is the worst part. You don't have to agree with us. We don't really care what you believe. You just have to follow along and act like you agree with us, and that is the worst part of it. The Tea Party is saying, stand up for what you believe in, stand on principle. And the establishment is saying, follow the leader. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I want to discuss the Upton bill a little more. The fixes that Obama has made, that he dictated, because he is, in fact, a dictator. We've come to learn that over the last couple of years. And I want to talk about Black Friday a little bit, too, because I've been having some discussions about who should have to work on Black Friday and if that's even fair. Remember, check out nathan-nephew.com. Look me up on Facebook. Let me know what you think. And when you're hearing the show, this is not my normal time on Red State Talk Radio, so make sure you look at the broadcast schedule and find out when my show normally airs, and you can always find it at nathan-nephew.com.
When it comes to TV, if you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best value in entertainment. Not only will you find the same channels you know and love for less, Dish sweetens the deal with free HD for life and premium movie channels free for 3 months, including Blockbuster at home. You can also save a bundle when you combine DishNet high-speed internet with your TV service. Why would you ever pay more for TV? Switch to Dish and see what real value is. Free HD for life, premium channels free for 3 months, scores of movies with Blockbuster at home, premium savings when you bundle DishNet high-speed internet service. Limited time offer, 24-month agreement with credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. Call for details.
Call Dish Satellite, your Dish authorized retailer now. 800-507-9468. 800-507-9468. 800-507-9468. That's 800-507-9468.
Red State Talk Radio is All American Talk Radio.
The Nathan-nephew Show. Somewhat unique.
Somewhat unique?
Yes, somewhat unique.
All right, welcome back to the Nathan-nephew Show. I am, of course, Nathan-nephew. Obama called a presser today, which incidentally was kind of given away by Nancy Pelosi, which was funny. She was tweeting like, "Oh, we're going to have a statement from the president," before the president ever announced that he would be giving a statement. So, Democrats work well together. They're all bright people. Nancy, we need to pass it to see what's in it. Pelosi was definitely on top of that one, but that doesn't matter. He held a press conference today to not really apologize again, but to admit that he was wrong. Not admitting that he lied, but admitting that he was misinformed about if you like your plan, you can keep your plan. And he came up with a fix for all of the people, the 5 million healthcare insurance plans that have been canceled. He came up with a fix for those 5 million people. Or maybe some of them. Of course he can't help them all. He lied and that doesn't matter. But he'll help a couple of them.
Today I'm offering an idea that will help do it. Already, people who have plans that predate the Affordable Care Act can keep those plans if they haven't changed. That was already in the law. That's what's called a grandfather clause that was included in the law. Today we're going to extend that principle both to people whose plans have changed since the law took effect and to people who bought plans since the law took effect. So state insurance commissioners still have the power to decide what plans can and can't be sold in their states, but the bottom line is insurers can extend current plans that would otherwise be canceled into 2014, and Americans whose plans have been canceled can choose to re-enroll in the same kind of plan. We're also requiring insurers to extend current plans to inform their customers about two things. One, that what protections these renewed plans don't include. Number two, that the marketplace offers new options with better coverage and tax credits that might help you bring down the costs. So, if you received one of these letters, I'd encourage you to take a look at the marketplace. Even if the website isn't working as smoothly as it should be for everybody yet, the plan comparison tool that lets you browse costs for new plans near you is working just fine.
Yeah, so just head over to healthcare.gov and browse the plans and the costs. Okay, so what his fix does, now remember at the beginning of the show, I read Article 1, Section 1 to you, which says all legislative powers are vested in Congress, not vested in the president. So, in order to change this law, Congress must act, but King Obama says that that's not the case. He can it is called Obamacare after all, and if it's called Obamacare, he should be able to make any changes he wants to it. What he's doing is saying for a year. Now, this is important because what happens in a year from now? Oh, the 2014 midterm elections. Oh, that's right. So until after the elections, and he should have said that if he wants to be honest, until after the midterm elections, when hopefully Democrats don't lose every race in this nation, until then, if you had a plan that was canceled due to Obamacare, if you had a plan that was substandard according to the Obamacare regulations, you can, well, no, you can't just get that plan back. The insurance company has the option to offer a similar plan. And on top of that, as an added benefit to you, that insurance company must list in that plan the things that are not covered in that plan. So when you buy that substandard plan that the insurance company may or may not offer you again, it will say, this plan does not cover birth control. Or, I'm sorry, single 25-year-old male, this plan does not cover costs associated with pregnancy. So you'll know that this substandard plan really is substandard. And this healthcare plan must tell you that there may be better options in the healthcare marketplace. So sure, we will allow the insurance companies to offer these substandard plans if they want to, but they have to tell you why they're substandard. And they have to tell you that really you should just go join Obamacare anyway. Now, why in the hell would an insurance company that canceled a substandard plan and was forced to sell a more expensive plan, why in the hell would they reinstate the cheaper plan if it's mandated that people must purchase the more expensive plan? Really? Why would they do that? This is not going to work out. What's going to happen is if those plans are reinstated by the insurance companies, the healthy young people are going to buy those cheap plans because why wouldn't they? It makes sense. They're the ones buying those plans anyway because that's all they need. They just need something to cover catastrophic care if they're in an accident or get an unexpected illness or something. They don't need the day-to-day, knee surgery and hip replacement and medication and all of that stuff. It's going to overload the market, the expensive plan market, with the people who are sick who need that sort of coverage, and there isn't going to be enough premium from these cheap plans from the healthy people to cover the costs of the people who use the healthcare insurance the most. And that's why the sort of free market solution worked a bit better, is because they had pools. And the way this works is premiums, your cost is people are pooled together in risk pools in order to divide the risk among a group of people. That's what insurance is. And when you have a group of healthy people who are buying very cheap plans, and then a group of sickly people, elderly, or whatever, people that are buying a different set of plans, and their premiums aren't calculated to kind of balance each other out because they're in two separate groups, it will not work. And so they're going to have to cancel somebody, and they're going to have to cancel the people that cost the most, or stop covering some of the care, and none of this will work, and then we're back to single payer because, these evil private insurance companies will not cover you. They're not willing to pay the money, so the government will just take care of you. Now, this fix that Obamacare, this fix that Obama made today is similar to the Upton bill, which I didn't really realize because they hadn't been selling it this way until I looked into it. The Upton bill, the Republican measure that is supposed to fix this and supposed to allow these people to get these cheap insurance plans again, it's also only effective for a year. So even the Republican plan that is supported by people like John McCain and Dianne Feinstein, it's only effective through the midterm election. So it's just delaying this garbage a year as well. And maybe that's because that's the only way they thought that Democrats would vote for it. But it's not a real fix. It's just delaying it. So next year we'll have the exact same problems. Now, let's not forget that the employer market, this is just the individual market. This is just the people who buy insurance on their own because they don't get it through their work. All of this damage is going to be done to the employer market next year, I think starting in January. The main difference between Obama's fix and the fix in the Upton bill is that Obama says if you had insurance and it was canceled, or if you had it before the exchange, or you've purchased it since Obamacare took effect, you can the insurance company can offer you that plan again. What the Upton bill would do is allow anybody to purchase those substandard plans if they wanted to. So it would open it up like it was before, that anybody that qualified that the insurance company was willing to sell it to could purchase one of those plans. Obama's saying, well, if you didn't have it before, we don't want you to buy it now. But if you did have it, then yeah, the insurance company may or may not. And there's already been insurance regulators in states, I think Arkansas possibly, that came out and said, no, I'm not going to allow insurance companies to do that because it will completely destabilize the market. Like I was saying, it's going to create a separation between the really healthy people that pay premiums and don't use the insurance and the non-healthy people that pay premiums and use much more of the insurance than they pay in premiums. And when you do that, again, you're not balancing it out. The insurance companies are not going to be able to make money, and it's not sustainable in the private market. Which isn't a surprise. We knew all of this. And in fact, after Obama announced his fix, he took some questions, which is rare for him. He did take some questions. And Major Darrett asked a couple. He usually asks fairly tough questions. He asked a couple pretty good questions. And one was, did you regret going live on the website when you should have known that it was broken?
You were informed, or several people in this building were informed, 2 weeks before the launch of the website that it was failing the most basic tests internally. And yet a decision was made to launch the website on October 1st. Did you regret that?
Well, on the website, I was not informed directly that the website would not be working as the way it was supposed to. Had I been informed, I wouldn't be going out saying, boy, this is going to be great. I'm accused of a lot of things, but I don't think I'm stupid enough to go around saying this is going to be like shopping on Amazon or Travelocity.
I do.
A week before the website opens if I thought that it wasn't going to work.
Now, you may, Mr. Obama, think you're not stupid enough to do that, but I think that you are stupid enough to go out and claim this website is going to be perfect, knowing full well it is not. I think you are stupid enough to do that because you think the American people are stupid enough to believe you. And I think that's the real deal, is that you thought that the American people were so naive and that you had the media wrapped around your finger so tightly that you could say anything you wanted. And up until now, that's largely been the case. But now you're starting to actually affect those reporters and actually hit Democrats and actually hit some of the mainstream media because they're losing their insurance plans. They're seeing their premiums skyrocket and they don't like it. Because up until now, it's been we scratch your back, you scratch our back, this back and forth thing, and you don't spy on us. You spied on them. They didn't like that, did they? Now you're getting rid of their insurance. You're severing their relationships with their doctors. You're increasing their premiums. They're not happy. They're not willing to cover for you like they were. He asked another question as well about why did you lie about if you like your health plan, you can keep your health plan? Why not just tell the truth?
My working assumption was that the majority of those folks would find better policies at lower costs or the same costs in the marketplaces, and that the universe of folks who potentially would not find a better deal in the marketplaces, the grandfather clause would work sufficiently for them. And it didn't. That's something I deeply regret because it's scary getting a cancellation notice.
Did you decide, sir, that the simple declaration was something the American people could handle, but this nuanced answer you just gave now was something they couldn't handle, and you didn't trust the American people with a fuller truth?
No. My expectation was that for 98% of the American people, either it genuinely wouldn't change at all, or they'd be pleasantly surprised with the options in the marketplace, and that the grandfather clause would cover the rest. That proved not to be the case, and that's on me.
So first of all, he's admitting here that he lied. Okay, and this is a subtle point, and maybe it's petty, I guess, if you want to call it petty, but to me, when you care about every American, you care about every American. What he said before was he thought you could keep your plan if you liked your plan. He thought that the grandfather clause was good enough. Here he's saying that he thought 98% of Americans would not be affected, which leaves 2% that he knew would be affected. And what his excuse is that, well, those 2% would be pleasantly surprised because they would get a better deal. That's not what you've been saying, Mr. President. What you've been saying is that nobody's health care plan would be canceled. Now you're saying, well, 98% I figured, but I just decided to lie to you. Like I said, it's a subtle point, but it is a point that is worth making. And, you know, I mean, I think the major here is exactly right. Why didn't you just tell the truth? Did you not think the American people could handle the truth? This goes back to Obama thinking that he's not stupid enough to tell this lie. I think he really thinks that the American people are so dumb. And in fact, the Democrats, we know they count on dumb people, uneducated or uninformed, not necessarily uneducated, because we know a lot of Democrats are very, very educated, but they're just naive, uninformed, unwilling to see the truth. They count on that as their voter base. So the president was thinking that he could go out and say anything he wanted as long as it sounded good, and it doesn't matter the outcome. Also, don't forget, and I've said this a couple times, I said it tonight already, don't forget the collapse of the individual market, the cancellation of these policies is 100% intended by Obamacare and by Obama himself. It's 100% in line with their plan to move to a single payer. Everybody in Medicare, everybody has government insurance that's paid for by tax money through the government, and everybody has a one-size-fits-all plan. It's completely on track with the plan to move in that direction. All right, so Thanksgiving is coming up in a couple of weeks now. And every year we have this crazy thing called Black Friday, where the day after Thanksgiving, traditionally, millions of people rush to the stores to get there at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., whenever they open, to run in, trample everybody, and get a really good deal on a DVD player. Lately, I think starting last year, maybe the year before, a couple stores decided, well, you know, maybe we can take advantage of this since people want to shop and open up at midnight on Thanksgiving. And then that kind of progressed, and then we have stores that are opening up at 7 a.m. on Thanksgiving Day, so they're open on Thanksgiving. And I have to be honest, while, let me be clear, like the president, I understand that it is probably not fun for every single employee that works on Thanksgiving. And I'm sure that not every single employee that has to work at one of these stores wants to work. I am getting a little tired of hearing people complain that this isn't fair because these companies are forcing people to work and spend time away from their families. There's a couple points here. One being, nobody's forced to work there. You can find another job. There's lots of retail places that won't be open. The second point is, if there wasn't demand for it, i.e., if there weren't millions of people willing to shop at these times, these stores would not go out of their way to be open, because Most of them are paying time and a half, double time. It's holiday pay for a lot of people. The other point, how many times on Thanksgiving or Christmas have you ran to the gas station or gotten gas on the way to grandma's house at a gas station that was open on those days? How many times have you flown on an airplane to get to where you were going or to get home on a holiday? How many times have you ran out to Walmart or somewhere else to pick up cranberry sauce because you forgot it? And it's Thanksgiving, and it's just not the same without cranberry sauce. And there were people working at those places. How many times on Thanksgiving have you decided not to cook? And so you went to Bob Evans or somewhere else to eat dinner that day because they were open on Thanksgiving. And there were people working there. There's been people working on Thanksgiving for years. And now that these big stores, the evil stores that sell things cheaply to people like Walmart, are staying open and employing millions of people in this country and allowing millions of people to get holiday pay. Maybe not millions to get holiday pay, but, tons of people getting holiday pay because they're working on Thanksgiving. And let's not forget that places, I think it was Target last year, that said they put out sign-up sheets for people that wanted to work on Thanksgiving. And they had a waiting list. They had an overflow of people volunteering to work on these days. But what we have are people that don't work in these stores and unions that are complaining about fairness and about, well, if these people want to spend time with their family, Thanksgiving is really about family. And don't give me that crap, because when you start talking about unions and Democrats that are complaining about this and you talk about family and holidays, try to celebrate Christmas in a school when you want to talk about family, and things that a lot of families do celebrate Christmas. You can't even talk about it in schools. Halloween, same thing. Thanksgiving, I'm sure, is going to get there when they realize that it does, in fact, have religious roots. My point is, these employers have other choices, and the majority of the employees, from what I can see, and of course I don't know the majority of these employees, but it seems like a lot of people that I talk to are happy to work these days because it's extra money to spend on Christmas presents. A lot of these places are putting out sign-up sheets. People are volunteering. We've always had gas stations. We've always had hospitals. We've always had police, fire departments, restaurants, convenience stores, big, grocery stores. They've always been open. Airports. But when you start, when the people that make money, not on services, but by selling things like food, like food, you shouldn't have to pay for your food, right? It's just not fair that you go to Walmart and you give them money. When these places start trying to take advantage of demand, because let's not forget, there is a demand. There are millions of people that want to shop at these times. When they start taking advantage of that, then it starts turning into, well, they're just greedy. They don't need the money, and it's not fair that they're making money at the expense of these poor little employees that took these jobs that they knew were not the most flexible jobs in the world, and now they have to work on these sacred days. I guess my biggest problem is a lot of the complaints I hear are not from people who are in that situation. It's from unions. It's from people who don't work in those situations but think they want to force their opinion on these companies. The biggest problem is who gets to decide which of these businesses stay open. Okay, fine. It's not right that you make employees work on Thanksgiving Day. If I can see that point, then who gets to make the decision of what is open on Thanksgiving? Because why is it fair that hospital workers have to work? Well, of course, we need hospitals to be open because people will die if they're not. But who gets to make that? Is it government? I certainly don't think we need to be putting that sort of power in the government's hands, even though that's exactly what they're doing with health care. It's nobody's business what I or what Walmart does with a private corporation. You have employees, they get paid for their work. We're assuming these people are compensated fairly for what they do. It's their right to do it, and I have no problem with it. It's all the time I have. I want to thank you. Remember to head over to nathan-nephew.com. Stay tuned in right here on Red State Talk Radio. And also look me up on Facebook. Email talk@nathan-nephew.com. Let me know what you think. See you next week.